Hello, I'm Norm Rasmussen. How would you like to hear a good bear story? I got an exciting bear story I'd like to tell you. Now, this is the first time I ever saw a bear in a tree. We treat a bear. And this was not just your average tree, a bear, and then go off and never forget it. This is a story you'll never forget. And I love telling it. So here we go. Now the setting was around 1978, 19, oh, might have been before that. Might have been, let's see, now, yeah. Probably about 1974, 75 area. I was living out in southern Oregon, going to college at there in Ashland, Oregon. USOC is what they call it, the University of Southern Oregon. And I was probably about age, I don't know, 21, 22, 23, somewhere in there, probably more like age 23. And there was a guy that was a very successful hunter for bears out in that area. His name was Laverne Happenstall. He ran a taxidermist shop there on the north end of Ashland, and he had some of the best bear dogs that money could buy. He knew what he was doing. The dogs were well trained, and I was at that time in my life desiring to maybe become a wildlife photographer, and so I asked him if he would take me on some bear hunts so maybe I'd get some good photographs of bear action. And so he said yes, he'd give me a try. And so we went off one spring evening out into the mountains there up above Ashland, just north of the rugged California border, southern Oregon area. And there was a guy that also had been a seasoned bear hunter by the name of Frank. I don't remember Frank's last name. Frank was older, wiry guy. And so Frank and Hap and I took off in the truck, and it had been snowing, wet snow, probably maybe 6 inches of wet snow on the ground. And there was a track crossing the road, a bear track, and the dogs were turned loose, but it was on a steep, deep, rugged canyon. And so down the canyon wall the dogs went, and we waited, and after about 45 minutes roughly, Hap could hear the barking of the dogs change, and he said they treated the bear. He says, so Norm, you want to go get some pictures of that bear? It's going to be a tough trip down the side of that canyon wall and cross some river or rivers and up the other side a ways. You up to it? I said, you bet. So off we went. Now, we went down that canyon wall, slick snow, 6 inches of snow on the ground, big old wet flakes. I mean, we got canyon walls, we got rock outcroppings, we've got major structural hindrances to smooth going down the side of that canyon. I don't know, that canyon had to be a quarter mile, I don't know, maybe more than that down. Seemed like forever. But we got down there after falling, slipping. We were soaking wet by the time we got to the bottom of the canyon. Well, in short order, here we had a big stream to cross. And this was a fast-moving stream. There weren't icicles on the edge of this stream, but there could have been. We're dealing here in wintertime, and we're dealing with ice-cold, fast-moving water, okay, and we've got to get across that water to get to the other side of the canyon wall and then climb it to where these dogs were. This is a white water stream, to say the least. Let's have a little sip here of coffee to continue. Now, Frank had a handgun. He had a .22 pistol. That's the only firearm we had. We had two flashlights. Both of them were waterproof lights, had the big old battery in them. And so Hap crossed a shallow part of the river that was about chest high on him, and the current took him down. He went down under the water, but he was a strong swimmer. He was a strong, physically built strong, so he swam across to the other side. Um, that didn't look appealing to Frank and I, and so we looked up and down the river for however long we were able to do that, to where we had decided that there was a better place to cross. It was not as far to the other side, and but it was deeper. The water was moving much faster. Well, Frank took off, and the current got him, took him down. He's bobbing down that river like a cork, upside down. You can see the light twisting and turning underwater. He had his hand on the light. Finally, the light goes out of visibility, and Happy was still upstream. I was the one holding my light. I had the other light, and I was holding it on Frank. And Frank finally managed to get to the other side of the stream. He was holding on to some bushes for life, and he couldn't get up the bank because the bank was too steep, so he was yelling to get Hap to help him. So I run upstream, told Hap, get on, get downstream, get Frank on the other side. So Hap come down and was able to pull up Frank onto the bank. And freezing cold, of course. Well, Frank had lost his pistol, he'd lost his light in the stream, so now we were down to two lights. And I didn't like this setup. I wasn't sure that I wanted to continue this bear hunt. I was always a rugged guy and was up for a challenge, but this did not look very appealing to me. This river was dangerous to cross in the middle of the night. And it wasn't going to be warm. Of course, I wasn't warm now, but, the adrenaline was rushing and we had the body heat. But going across that ice cold river, wasn't stream, it's like, oh, my. Well, anyway, come on if you want pictures. So we found a narrow place. I threw the camera equipment across the river, barely, landed on the edge. They lunged and got it before it went into the water. So at least the camera equipment is on the other side of the river. So now it's just a matter of me finally deciding where I'm going to get in and try to survive getting across it. I decided to go back up where Hap had crossed, but I got a long pole and stuck it in front of me and leaned into the river as I crossed it. Well, that kept me from falling down, and I made it across the river without getting blown down the river in the rapids. And so I got on the other side. Cold, yeah, but the adrenaline was rushing, and we got a bear that's treed, and we need to get some photographs. So off we took. We didn't go but a couple hundred yards, and wouldn't you know, we had crossed just below a fork in the stream. So now we got to cross another stream to get to the other side, to get up the canyon wall. Hap, soaking wet and cold, he just jumped in and swam over to the other side. Frank, he wasn't interested in going down the water again. He had a better idea. Frank says to himself and me, I think I can pole vault this thing. So he gets a big long branch and he gets out onto the edge of a log that's out a little ways over the creek, and he tries to get a little momentum going, and he gets up there, and the momentum kind of stops, and the pole kind of comes right down in the middle of the water, and Frank's back in the water again. It's like he was before, but this stream wasn't as fast moving as the other one. Hits the water, gets to the other side, no problem. Just a little bit colder than what he was before. So they're both on the other side waiting for me. I throw my camera equipment across and swim across, and there. Now I'm a little more cold than what I was before. But we got a bear treed, and we got to get some photographs. Well, we got to the base of the canyon wall, and Hap says, okay, here's the deal. You guys stay here, keep your lights out. One light I had, my light. And he said, I'm gonna sneak up on that bear. He said, I'm going to try to get underneath that tree, and keep him there because they tend to come out of trees this time of year. And so when I yell, come up here just as fast as you can, Norm, and start taking pictures, because that bear probably won't stay treed all that long. It's just my past experience. So, the adrenaline's rushing. We got no firearm, and I don't know what's going to happen here. I didn't have no clue what was going to happen. So, about 10 minutes go by, and all of a sudden we hear Hap yelling like crazy. Hey, come on, come on, come on. So we go running up the slick side of this canyon. We get up there maybe, I don't know, 80, 100 yards. Man, these dogs are going nuts, yelling at this bear and barking at the bear that's treed, okay? And so Frank goes over to help Hap, so they both get sticks, okay? And this bear is wanting to come down the tree. Well, they got sticks, and they're poking this bear in the snout, trying to get him to go back up the tree. Hap's yelling, hurry up, get that camera set up, get your flash set up, because he's going to come down, he ain't going to stay long, so hurry up. Well, I get my backpack off, and I get the camera out, and I got a big old battery pack. Nothing fancy like we have today. Man, this was a huge old battery pack. Get this, and I got flash bulbs, okay, for extra brightness. And so my hands are so freezing cold, I can't get the flash attachment connected to my camera, let alone any energy to it. I mean, come on, hurry, rush. And I'm trying, my hands are just so cold, they're numb. And then I had my back turned to the tree when I was doing this, and the commotion was just going absolutely nuts. So I finally realized there is no way that I'm going to be able to get this camera in operation to be able to take pictures of the treed bear. And it's not going to happen. No way. My hands are way too cold. And so I turn around with my light, shine it up at the tree and the guys and the dogs, only to see one of the dogs, because this was such a steep canyon wall, one of the dogs was uphill. He runs down, gets momentum, lunges up and grabs a hold of that bear somewhere down here around the throat area. And the bear was probably 150 to 200 pound bear. Not huge, about average size for a black bear. And that dog has got lots of hold of his fur, and man, he's just shaking that old bear. Well, that old bear is going nuts. Well, another dog sees this, and he makes a big lunge, goes running down the hill, makes a big lunge, gets a hold of the bear. So that's two dogs on the bear. Well, they're starting to pull the bear down from their weight. Well, the bear turns around, shakes the dogs off, starts going back up the tree a little ways. Then he decides he's going to come back down. He comes down again, but rear end first. And so these dogs got the routine. So now the dogs are jumping, getting a run down the hill, momentum, jumping up and grabbing that bear by the butt. And about three maybe got him by the butt, and they're holding on by their jaws. Well, the weight of those three dogs pulled that bear right down. Well, Hap and Frank, they're underneath the tree with their prod sticks trying to scare that bear back up the tree. And of course, Hap had said, you never let a bear intimidate you. You got to yell, you got to growl louder than the bear to put fear into him. So old Frank and Hap are over there, yelling, screaming, and all that good stuff, My gosh, the commotion and the dogs are barking, and my heart is just coming out of my chest like, what have I got myself into here? Oh, these are a bunch of madmen. This is crazy. And cold is no longer a thought of any of our concerns at that moment, let me tell you, because fear was at a very high level in yours truly. Well, the dogs pulled the bear out of the tree. The bear comes flying down, and right on top of Hap and Frank, well, their light gets knocked out. I got the only light, all right, and the bear takes off past me about maybe 10 yards away, and the dogs are right on the bear, and off they go, and pretty soon it's not too long and you can't hardly hear the dogs a whole lot more. So Hap and Frank, they get up, and of course Hap, you had to know Happy. Well, did you get pictures of that? Pictures of that? Are you crazy? Yeah, no way. Well, what good are you? You know, we went through all of that to get you close to a bear, and you know, photographs. What kind of a photographer are you? Well, they were right. They knew good and well. I mean, we were so doggone cold. Um, and so anyway, we laid down there in that snow. We had our heads up on a log for a little rest support, and we're laying there in the darkness. And man, it's cold. It is cold. And we're breathing heavy, still trying to catch our breath from all that exhaustion. And Hap says, well, he says, here's the deal. He says, they'll probably tree that bear again, knowing those dogs. They'll probably tree that bear again, but it could be a mile, 2 miles away, probably downstream. And that bear's antsy. He does not want to stay in a tree. So actually getting up close enough to get your camera set up, the odds would be pretty slim that you're going to get photographs of that bear. Well, I said, you know what? We haven't had time, but I need to check my camera equipment. Well, checked it. Well, I had broken the flash. So the flash didn't work anyway. When I had thrown it across the creek, okay, something had broken, and so it didn't work. So photographs were out. We could have photographed in the daylight, but then clouds and overhead didn't look good for photographs. So he said, let's scrub the photographs. Well, we're laying there. And he said, well, let's just listen to the dogs and see if they tree that bear again. Sometimes the bear will run circles, and maybe he'll tree closer. Let's see what happens. So we're listening to the dogs go off in the distance, and then we can hardly hear them, and then we don't hear them. And, boy, we're just shaking, shivering from the soaking wet, you know, crossing the rivers, and it's cold out. And we just freezing. And lo and behold, I happened to feel in a pocket, and I had a pack of Marlboros that had not been opened. Okay, so we had us a cigarette. Oh man, with the psychological effect of that cigarette hit the spot at the moment. So we were just about done with our first cigarettes, and all of a sudden, Hap elbows me, you know, laying beside. He yelled. He said, "Shh! Don't make a sound." He said, "You hear that?" Hear what? He said, that bear's come back. That bear's come back and he's going to attack. Don't move. Don't move, Norm. Oh my gosh, I can hear popping up above us. Here's some limbs popping, twigs breaking and stuff. Oh my gosh, that bear is going to come back and attack us. We've got no firearm. Oh my word, this is going through me. Now he says, now Norm, he says, if that bear attacks, he says, take off running. I'm going to yell and take off running just as fast as you can run. And don't quit running. Just run as far and as fast as you can. Let's see what happens. He whispers that to me. Okay. Ow. The more popping, the more banging. Pretty soon Hap lets out with a yell, run for your life! Well, that's all I needed. When he said run, I was on my feet and I was moving in turbo downhill where it's easiest to negotiate. Well, in the dark, I tripped on something and went over and over and over and banged up against something and saw stars and waited for that bear to gobble me. And all I heard was laughter and laughter and louder laughter. And I thought, what's everybody laughing about? Well, I get up, kick the snow off, and get my senses back, and I walk up to where these two Hanyaks are laughing their heads off. Well, what's so funny? They said, boy, you sure suckered for that one. What? Well, then I saw it. A younger dog had come back. Well, found out later this younger dog, he always tended to leave the dog pack and circle back to the owner, Hap. Well, they knew all along that this was this dog coming back, and they set me up to see what I would do. Well, they found out what I would do. I ran and didn't get very far. Okay, so now what's the plan? Well, the plan was to get back to a warm truck, which was way up on the other side of the canyon, the rough, steep, slippery canyon. So we walked down across the creeks again, and Hap thought there might be a logging road down the stream, maybe a half mile or so, and so we went downstream, and about a half mile roughly, if I remember correctly, there was an old logging road down there. Well, I had a cigarette lighter, so Hap says, "Here's the deal, Norm. You're a young buck. You're in shape. We're two worn out old guys that need sleep bad. We're going to build a fire here and dry out and get warm. So here's what you can do. You can go up the canyon wall to get the truck, or you can take this logging road and wind around however many miles it takes to get to the truck. But one way or another, we won't have that warm truck until you go get it for us. Now here's the keys." Okay. Well, I'd come down that canyon wall. Coming down a canyon wall is really pretty simple, depending on how many bruises you want to put up with and broken bones, which we were spared from, thank God. Um, I decided the canyon wall was not an option. If it was 100 miles or 200 miles up the old logging road to wherever we had to get back to where the truck was, that was the only option for me. So back in those days, I ran long distances, and so I ran. I ran slowly for probably seemed like maybe 5, 6, 7 miles up the windy old logging road. Laid down on the road, breathed heavy, catch my breath, get a little more energy, and took off trotting again. And I made it up to that truck. It might have been 7, 8, 9, 10 miles. I don't remember. To where the truck was, got in the truck, and then slowly made it down to where the guys were, and picked them up, and off we went. But that was the first bear hunt that I ever went on in Oregon, and it was very memorable. It was memorable for the three of us, and I just wanted to share that for my grandkids and their grandkids, so the story doesn't go to the grave with me, okay? Thanks for hearing me out if you've listened this long. Take care.